And we're talking politics today because to move forward and to progress as a great nation, they say make America great again, but she can be greater. She can come to the point where she's at her greatest. And this is why we're buying into, what we're doing, being patriarchs. Because the people have two-tier government, this two-party system has problems, and a house divided cannot stand. These two rivaling tribes, Republicans and Democrats, this cannot continue because it's been destroying this nation for a very long time. And these rivaling tribes going at each other. We're having crisis. Things happen from a Mother Nature perspective. We had some very high winds in the state of California, more importantly in Los Angeles County. And, the winds kicked up in some brush fires on the foothills in Los Angeles County. When I say foothills, meaning the mountains and the base cities of these mountains, spanning all the way from PCH, which is Pacific Coast Highway, all the way into the San Gabriel Valley, in the areas of Altadena. So we got to understand what's going on. And President Trump had a conversation, or he had a press conference, and he threw the governor of California under the bus and blamed Gavin Newsom for the fires in Los Angeles County. And I sat back to myself and I said, man, come on now. People have lost their lives. There's 5 people have perished. Thousands of people have lost their homes, and lost everything. And you're talking about, mansions, 20, 30 million mansions, homes on PCH in Malibu, beachfront properties, have burnt. And President Trump has the nerve to blame the governor. And then sometimes you got to read between the lines when it comes to the president, Donald Trump. He says a lot of things, but he don't context for us to really understand. So when I sit back and I said, how can you blame the governor of California for the fires in LA? And I thought to myself, and I'm thinking about it as I'm watching. And the local news did an amazing job. They cut in and they just pretty much focused on it 24. And I'm sitting back and I'm watching these fires grow. Saw a particular fire, start to burn. I saw the fire engine, roaring and pulls up. They jump out the fire. They attach the hose to the fire hydrant and they hit it and nothing came out. And I sat back and said, whoa. They looked at each other. They looked at the property that was on fire and they basically, watched it burn. Sat there and took pictures. And I'm sitting back like, wait a minute. So since Donald Trump is blaming the governor of California for these fires, and I thought about it, I said, you got to read between the lines when it comes to President Trump or President-elect Trump. And I sat back and I said, wow, because I'm here in California. And I remember all last year, they were having conversations and debates because the storm water from the rain, they allowed billions of gallons of water. Instead of allowing it to stay in the reservoir, they released it in the ocean. And that's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. The state of California, under the leadership of Gavin Newsom, have okayed the release of billions of gallons of water to drain out into the ocean. And then when something like this happened, there's a parallel to having these empty hydrants. So in terms of what the president says, sometimes it's outlandish and we might not understand it. But if you really look at it and pay attention, there's some truth to it. So like I said, I do this for the people. And I took a little deep dive and I just went on and paid attention, and tried to find some information to basically confirm what Trump is saying. Okay, Forbes magazine put out an article, basically, why does California let gallons of fresh water drain into the ocean? Okay, and on YouTube, and pretty much going through, just reading the headlines, and on YouTube, as late as September 11th of 2024, somebody did a video. California Insider did a video And it says California is about to dump 114 billion gallons of water into the ocean. So when President Trump says it's Gavin Newsom's fault, this is what he's talking about. I saw him this morning in a press conference, and he's basically saying it's all Gavin's fault and he needs to resign because somehow, some way, our elected officials are not looking out for the people. And Kamala Harris said it on the campaign trail, their hands are tied and they can only do what the check writers say do. So who's running the country? Who basically told the top dog, the governor of California, to pretty much okay and sign legislation which will mandate the dumping of 114 billion gallons of water, because that water could have been used to put out these fires. And really, let's really have this conversation, because there's another one. Here's why California has blocked millions of tons of water. This was just a week ago, before the fires just happened this week. So somebody put out a video this week. Here is why California has blocked millions of tons of water. Okay. And then here's another one. 90% of California waters flows into the ocean. So when you talk about accountability, it has to, somebody has to be accountable. And then on the city level, this was in the city of Los Angeles. But you got to understand, California, LA is a big county. OK, and a lot of us live in the city. We're not affected by it in the city. A lot of us, putting on our social media pages, we're safe, because when you look at the news, it looked like the whole city is on fire. But this is typically in the foothills, in which we do have what they call Santa winds on a constant. But come to find out, January is the worst time. And then typically we have rain. OK, but this particular year, it's kind of like, we always have a lot of rain, too much rain, and have floods or not enough rain. And this is one of those years, okay, where we're not having a lot of rainwater. But if we had preserves, had not okayed to pretty much release this water as late as September, and this particular article was actually a week ago, we would have had, it seems like they kind of knew what was going on. It was kind of like a setup, because we're dealing with Mother Nature, because we had, hurricane winds, 50 to 90 mile an hour gusts, coming down. And then somehow, some way, when I watched the news on was that Wednesday morning, and the news, they have to be more accountable as well, because the weatherman on the news, we're going to have winds at a, very high winds, and this is the worst, fire alert that we're going to have. And I sat there and I said, wow, it's ours. Because if you saying things like that, a pyromaniac is going to step up and what a pyromaniac does. OK, so this is something why we as people, we got to come together as one. There can't be a two-tier, because in hindsight, who would approve to dump 114 billion gallons of water into the Pacific Ocean? Who would do that? The buck stops. It starts at the top, downhill. Now, I've been watching local news, and a lot of conservatives are basically, blaming Karen Bass because she cut the budget with the fire department. OK, and in terms of these fire hydrants, these are city fire hydrants. LA strategically, you have county within the city, and then you have, so all of these rich and influential places, they pretty much redline so they could be a part of the city, like Palisades, Malibu, all these cities. So the city of California, the city of Los Angeles, is responsible for the upkeep, for the conservation of water, for the fire department, law enforcement, the whole nine. But somehow, some way, when these fires started, I didn't know this, the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, was in Ghana. And I'm wondering Ghana. And this week on, Tuesday, Ghana, on the continent of Africa, has pretty much sworn in over 500 new Ghanaians, I guess that's the name, and 148 of them were pretty much African Americans from the United States of America. And then you have the mayor of Los Angeles, who's the first woman mayor who happens to be black, is in Ghana. So what's going on? Is this a back to Africa situation? And we don't, nobody gave us the memo. Because why would the mayor of Los Angeles be in Africa at a time where we're having the worst fires when it comes to, wildfires in the state's history. I think they broke the history this time around because back in the 30s and 40s, things were happening, but we didn't have the fire department. Fire department wasn't in a position to put the fires out. We didn't have the technology. So it's crazy that we're living in a time with technology and all things that are going on, and we can't, find a way to put a hand on the fires. Now, moving forward, hit the like, hit the subscription, solutions and resolutions, because the people need to, to give these elected officials ideas, because clearly they don't know what they're doing. So apparently, the mayor of Los Angeles gets back in town and then she reads, a handwritten letter or a typed out letter, to the people, pretty much just sitting there with sad faces. But I'm sitting back saying, where does the accountability go? So if you are a fireman and you went to do your job and there is no water and the fire hydrants are bone dry, who do you blame? Who do you blame? And then the city of Los Angeles, in terms of the mandates, are responsible for, especially in these rich and influential towns like Palisades, are responsible to clear the brush, just like Caltrans and, the other parks and recs, and these individuals, they're supposed to clear the rubbish. They're supposed to, make sure that, we don't have an ignition in the sense of the dry brush. But apparently these budgets have been cut and all the resources has been put into homeless situations. In that particular situation, they don't even know where the money goes because the homeless condition is still the same. But one thing that we do know, the individuals that have lost their homes, the individuals that are pretty much in a dire situation that have lost everything, we have opened up, shelters. And I'm hoping the fact can realize that maybe, after we get a hand on this, we could start using the resources and the fundings for these shelters to pretty much house the homeless and pretty much work on something different, because we are dealing in a situation where we continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different outcome. And I hope a contractor's on, because I'm going to give you some game right now, because there has to be a situation where we in 2025 can somehow have the technology or the know-how to pretty much stop the wood framing of homes and make these homes inflammable. Because I know steel, concrete, marble, glass does not burn. But why do we continue to build the infrastructure with wood, and it can actually just take one ember, which can travel miles, to pretty much burn a house? Because it was so sad to sit back and watch these fires coming to fruition. And I'm sitting back like saying, wow. But time after time, the fire department just pulled up and then they'll turn on attach the hose and, ready, boom, and no water comes out. And I'm sitting back, wow, that's a city fire hydrant. This is a city. The hydrants are bone dry somehow. They can't even put the homes out. And then the only individuals that may have their homes, they actually pretty much saved their own homes with water hoses. So you can see a situation where the whole entire neighborhood, it's pretty much is rubble, but then you will see 2 or 3 houses where the neighbors pulled together and pretty much just they didn't evacuate. They pretty much put their, say own home. But in terms of the emotion and how these individuals are feeling and choking up when the news cameras wants to put that camera in their face, because it looks like something out of the abyss. And then you got to look at, nature. And somebody said it, it was in Hollywood. It's a rich, influential place in LA where a lot of your Hollywood actors live. And the individual says, my God, look at what's going on. Mother Nature is enough to deal with. So I think we need to have conversations. We continue to hurt each other. And it spoke to my heart, because I'm like, he's right. Because how can we move on as a people? And we got to deal with Mother Nature, but we're yet willing to deal, with our own people in terms of hurting and killing, because I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to get back to the topic at hand in terms of blaming Gavin Newsom for the fires. There was a situation. I don't know if you guys saw the movie Leave the World Behind, and the particular scene where all the Teslas, lost the Wi-Fi and they're all just jammed up on the street. There was a situation on one of the main drags out of Palisades. They're coming down the hill. It's hot. And a lot of the individuals, it was a traffic jam. So they decided to get out of their cars and leave their vehicles in the street. But what they did, they locked their car doors and walked down the hill. So now you got the individuals trying to evacuate from up top of the hill, and all they see is a traffic jam, which forced them to leave their cars there. And then now you got homes were burning at the top of the hill. The fire trucks could not get up there because of the traffic jam, and they had to pull a bulldozer out to move the vehicles. And it looks like something out of a movie. So listen, it's time to get right and figure this thing out. Okay. But back to the subject at hand, Trump blames Gavin Newsom. And there is some truth to that, because the governor of California has signed legislation to allow the dumping of 114 million gallons of water. So when you talk about corrective actions, if we don't move away from this two-tier system, if we don't move away from Republicans versus Democrats and be common human beings and citizens of this world, of this country, we got to understand that if we sit back and hold our elected officials accountable and pretty much challenge them, this situation cannot happen again. It will not happen again, because the people to sit back and say, listen, we need reservoirs. We need to preserve our rainwater. We need to pretty much, have hundreds of billions of gallons of water available when things like this happen, because we just saw with our own eyes, bone dry fire hydrants in the fire departments watching a whole neighborhood burn. So we, the people, have to step up, because the American people spoke up and showed which party go. And that party is the Democratic Party, because their democracy is the democracy of this country, because the rulers of the Democratic Party are not even Americans. Think about that. It's the check writers. Think about that. There's foreign money, evildoers in high places that got these people hand tied, because I know the governor, Gavin Newsom, is pretty much scratching his head right now and trying to understand, what's really going on, because on CNN, they asked him, and I saw it with my own eyes. President Trump is blaming you, governor, for this, for the fires. And he's blaming you for, all of this. What do you have to say about that? He said, basically, people have lost their homes, and, a few people have lost their lives, and, people are worried about, what they're going to do tomorrow, where they're going to live, what are they going to eat. And he politicizes it. Yes, he's calling you, as you allowed 114 billions gallons of water be, let out into the ocean, because whatever, you're not trying to preserve waters for a non-rainy day. So we, the people, got to have these conversations and talk about it, because this cannot happen. Because like I said, I've never seen it bad, but on day one, the winds were on hurricane level, category 1 hurricane level. Winds was between 50 and 90 miles an hour. I've seen, trees, and it hit the city section as well. But in the sense of how, the fire is so fast. And then they said that it was so windy that they could not have any air, coverage. That's what they said. Okay. But then there's another situation. If you flip that pancake, Biden was in town, and from a national perspective, the flights are limited. So when Biden left town, 7, which is the Channel 7, helicopter or airplane or whatever that covers from the sky, finally got up on the next day and basically said, we're based on restrictions, we can actually show you aerial views. And I'm sitting back saying, wow, couldn't fly the planes because Biden's in town. And it seems like Biden brought that madness over here, because look what he's connected to. So this is why we associate ourselves, with these entities and these political parties, and come into the center to pretty much, mandate righteousness for all. Because if we were to vote on a bill in the state of California based on the fires, historical, on how, we have the history of fires, I guarantee you nobody will vote for legislation to allow 95% of our rainwater to be dumped into the Pacific Ocean. That's stupid. And this is what Donald Trump is talking about when he blames Gavin Newsom for the fire, because you got to read between the lines. Because like I said, I saw in my own eyes, the firemen could not do their jobs because the fire hydrants were okay. And that's real. So Trump had a press conference. I'm going to switch gears real quick. because there's a few things that we got to talk about that we've missed because of distraction that's been going on. And Trump had a press conference this week. We're talking politics today at Mar-a-Lago, and he mentioned the fact that he wants to buy Greenland, wants to take over the Panama Canal, and pretty much make Canada the 51st state. Okay. And I'm sitting back, and like I said, you got to read between the lines dealing with President Trump. Okay. Now, is there some truth to that? I pretty much thought about it, and I said, wait a minute. He wants to buy Greenland. Is that possible? So I took a deep dive and I started looking at articles and things like that. And I saw the Dutch and the people from Greenland sit back and say, we are not for sale. And I sat back and said, wait a minute. Boom, there it is. You are not for sale, the people, but in terms of the land, from a strategic perspective, okay, we got to have common sense. From a strategic perspective, that is not a bad idea. Actually, we need to really consider and think about that, because if you look at Iceland and Greenland, okay, it's at the North Pole, at the top of the country, and it's, the United States the world is round. So look at the defense. Russia can't make a move. Nobody can make a move, because from a strategic perspective, owning Greenland put us back at the superpower that we supposed to be. And as a red-blooded American citizen who ancestors built this nation on free labor, I'm rooting for this country, and we need to fix this country. Okay, we need to have on earth as it is in heaven. And when I read that Constitution, it actually says domestic equality. So that's not a bad idea. And as a historian, I thought about it and I said, matter of fact, we might want to push the line on that, because just imagine if Hawaii was not the 50th state. So when you talk about Pearl Harbor, just imagine if the Japanese owned Hawaii and we only have 49 states. Instead of bombing Pearl Harbor, they would have bombed California. Think about that. So from a strategic perspective, and then I did another one. I said, wait a minute, what was the 49th state? Alaska. From a strategic perspective, Alaska is a perfect state for the United States to be protected and protecting Canada at the same time, because foreign agents cannot come through that part of North America, slide through Canada, and then get us down in the United States of America. So from a strategic perspective, it makes perfectly good sense. And this is why there can't be a two-tier government, because when you look at the liberal media, they're going to spin it in a way and make it stupid, because they talk to the people with that low vibration. Their audience is ignorant. Their audience, are dumb. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it, because I got tired of telling, black people in my community that the poll taxes back in the day, when they would sit back and say, they charged $2 to vote. Those were poll taxes that Democrats put into play, because they didn't want black newly freed slaves voting for Republicans. So what I'm saying is, we have the same sheet of music as people, as Americans. We cannot continue on with a two-tier government. One says this and the other says that, because if you really pay attention, if they spoke on it this way, Greenland will put America at its greatest defense. Okay, it's in North America. We pretty much can monitor that airspace and monitor, Canada and the United States of America at the same time. And then Canada as a 51st state might make sense, because Canada has a lot of goods and services that has taxes and tariffs that we got to pay for here in the United States. And for the main point, why do Canada, really don't even have an army or military force? Why don't they have wars? You don't hear anything going on in Canada. Why? Because the United States protects Canada. The United States protect the Western Hemisphere. United States of America protects North America, and Canada is North America. Now, if they make Canada the 51st state, that would be the biggest state I've ever seen in my life. But at the end of the day, it makes sense, because it's our neighbor, and there's no way that they should be, living in a situation like they do, and all comfortable. And anything that happens, it happens to the United States, because America protects Canada. And then I know, all the greenery that, the brothers are smoking. I'm sure the brothers don't have a problem with the United States purchasing, not the people, the land. Okay, we already bought people, we stole people, we're not finna do that again. But at the end of the day, it is strategic and it'll be strategic. And then he said the Gulf of Mexico. And I will vote for this legislation, and he should do it in executive order. Change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. That's what it should have been in the first place. It should be the Gulf of America. But if you lean in these alt-left anti-American channels, oh, that doesn't make sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. It should be the Gulf of America because that is an American Gulf. Okay, because Florida and all these southern and massively Texas, Louisiana, that's the United States. That's not Mexico. So what's wrong with that? Like I said, we got a businessman that's about to be sworn in on the 20th, and he's making moves and making decisions, for the country to be great or as great is. And we got to sit back and support that because we do want this country to thrive. We don't want to have the enemy from within. We don't want to have governors, throwing away hundreds of billions of gallons of storm water, instead of putting it in a reservoir to fight fires in a state that has wildfires. And when we find a situation that happens on a catastrophic level, we have bone dry fire hydrants. This is the craziest thing ever. So we got to figure this thing out as a people. So this is why, like I said, we're done with the Democratic Party. Let's have these conversations. And Mark Zuckerberg, who's basically is the owner of Meta, who owns Facebook and owns Instagram, he came out and did a press conference, he said, and put out a video. It said that they're going to remove the fact checkers. Okay, because the fact checkers have become extreme, have become one-sided and have divided the world. He basically said he's going to put something in there called community space where we can have these conversations because we could debate about it. But who would oppose the Gulf of Mexico being the Gulf of America? Who would oppose the United States from a strategic perspective and a national security perspective from buying Greenland? Who would oppose the United States implementing Canada as its 51st state to pretty much vastly drop the prices on 23% of American goods being basically made in Canada? And that will open up the door for the Keystone Pipeline, meaning we can get, good energy and crude oil and whatever we need to Canada because the Biden administration pretty much, decimated the Keystone Pipeline on day one. So who are they for? It's the enemy from within because you got to look at, their actions and not what they say. It's the enemy from within. The Democratic Party has shown itself, and I'm not saying we have to be a Republican. We have to be Americans which have oversight and accountability on our elected officials because who allowed billions of dollars, 114 billion gallons of water, storm water from a reservoir that could be used to fight wildfires? Who allowed that to actually flow into the ocean? But if we had checks and balances on the state level, if we had an independent oversight body of congressional oversight, governor oversight, then they can't do things like that. Because I guarantee you without a shadow of a doubt, these individuals who lost everything and who are finding out that their fire hydrants in their communities are bone dry and been bone dry, I'm sure that in hindsight being 2020, they will approve of things of such sort. So this is why we got to figure this thing out as a people. Like I said, I'm down with the Gulf of United States and then the Panama Canal. That need to be the American canal. Okay, we have, bases, we monitor. Listen, it's time for America to be its greatest. Because when they say America great again, it was great. America is great, but it's not at its greatest because we have, these entities from within, these enemies from within, and we have issues that's going on. So we take care of home for the next 4 years. If we will come together and fight for the rights of the least of these, make sure that everybody has essentials, do something about crime, get the criminalization clause off the Constitution, end mass incarceration, end poverty, handle the drugs, invest more in education instead of imprisonment, and change the ecosystem and the climate, and hold the people accountable for the rules, laws, and legislation that will be on the books, America will be its greatest. And it's going to take the American people to organize and come together, because we've been playing the same dance for a very long time. Because, our ignorance is pretty much starting to show, because we keep doing the same thing over, expecting a different outcome. Because when they start building back, I guarantee you they're going to start framing every home being built back in the communities that has been decimated to rubble. They're going to build them back with wood frames. There should be laws and legislation to basically mandate we will never build a wood home again, because you can actually use steel. Okay. Commercial buildings does not use the wood framing. They use the wood framing, but they basically replace them with metal. Okay. And steel. Okay. And steel is inexpensive. So what I'm saying is this could help the United States. It could help the American steel industry. It could help our investments, because I still own American steel, because when Trump was president the first time, we followed that blueprint. And then when the Biden administration it came into effect, we were basically hit because we started to use foreign, materials. So we'll be fools to start to build any home with a wood frame or any flammable material. Now, somebody's going to get rich. And like I said, I'm not going to bury these ideas and these thoughts, because the individual that could come up with some flame retardant or some type of deflammable type material to stop this, then we can put a hand on this. But if we sit back and build every house back with wood, like we did in the 20th century, like we did in the 1800s, we're going to find ourselves back in a situation again, because it's not if, it's when. And then the United States of America, in terms of the news, pretty much giving us history. Oh, this has not happened before. But then they went back into 60s, and it was a situation where 300 homes were lost in Bel Air. So think about that. And see, when they built back, it's like real green in Beverly Hills. The vegetation is real green. Okay. But when you live in those hills and foothills, if the city does not, manage it, appropriately, then we're going to find ourselves having a situation like this, because somebody has to be accountable. The mayor has the type of accountability. And I know her hands are tied, because she just, was put into office to do a job of something or some entity that we don't see. Okay. Signing laws and legislation to, empty out our reservoirs, meaning we don't have any reserve water, to fight fires. So when this situation happens, but the powers that be, they know what's going on. It's a game of chess, not checkers. So in a game of chess, you on your second, third move before you even make a move at all. And then you're anticipating what your opponent does. So this is the game that they play, but they somehow, some way put their money behind individuals that play checkers, and they control and manipulate. But I'm just going to let y'all know to stop right here. And this is why, we've created Better Black America TV, which will make a better America for all people. Because if the blacks figure this thing out, pulled out of that Democratic Party, we literally dodged a bullet like Trump did when they tried to assassinate him. And we pretty much preserved, our future for the children's children. Because if that party had got into office, we'll be in line right now and asking for questions, because they want to dethrone America. They want to bankrupt America, like Venezuela and all these other countries that somehow these foreign nationals and foreign entities have somehow, infiltrated, and all our elected officials are pretty much suspect, and they're going to have to be accountable, because at the end of the day, we got to figure this thing out. So we're going to be progressive. The Democrats want to progressively change your gender, progressively change our way of living. But we got a progressive party in office that want to expand the United States, because they're having conversations, about purchasing Greenland. Okay. And Donald Trump Jr. just took a picture and put it on his Instagram. He's up there right now. Okay. And I, without a shadow of a doubt, will back the federal government to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, because that's what it is. I would, support taking over the Panama Canal, okay, making it the United States Canal, okay, because that's what you call a progressive movement when it comes to making America great again. Okay, but we want to be part of the operation to make America her greatest and deal with the racial aspects internal and make sure that we figure this thing out. Gulf of America, the American Canal, Canada, the 51st, and the purchase of Greenland. That's gangster. It is what it is. That is what it is. And I just looked into these comments and somebody put in, let me see here, Z Corp Alpha, Newsom stopped the water access for emergencies. Absolutely. And according to the article that I just read, and I don't want you just to believe me, okay, because I fact checked myself, and I'm just going to read these headlines. Basically, I mean, Forbes put out an article. Why does California let billion gallons of fresh water run into the ocean? That's Forbes. Some YouTube videos, one by the California Insider. California is about to dump 114 billion gallons of water into the ocean. Dated September 11. Here's another one. Here's why California has blocked million tons of water. This is 1 week ago. 1 week ago. Here's another one. California waters flows into the ocean. That is crazy. And the governor has to be accountable. The governor has to be accountable. Okay. And the people are going to fix this mess. Okay. The people. Okay. We can't rely on our elected officials because, like Kamala Harris said on the campaign trail, her hands are tied. Okay. It's check writers and it's voters. She got to do what the check writers say. And just like the mayor got to do what the check writers, because if you did not know, Karen Bass was caught in a scandal here in Los Angeles. Okay. And these elected officials were getting, sociology degrees, social work degrees from USC. Okay. They was not paying the tuition. And what they would do, they would swing contracts to the university. Okay. Mark Ridley Thomas was found guilty of this crime. And before they can actually look into Karen Bass, somehow some tuition was paid. And the 5th floor of the county building on Adams caught on fire, burnt up all the documents. Fact. And then the second situation with the mayor, okay, somebody in her Bowen Vista home, some entity broke into her home and stole 4 firearms. And then the third situation was they infiltrated the mayor's mansion. Think about that. So if you are the mayor, Karen Bass, this cute little woman, wouldn't you do what they tell you to do? Boom. There it is. Politics is dirty. It's nasty. And this is why we got to sign partisan independence to stay safe. And we got to actually hold the individuals, the check writers who are selecting these individuals accountable, because it's making them look bad. Because whoever told Gavin Newsom to release 114 billion gallons of water in September into the ocean knew what was about to transpire. And, the arsonist, I would say the government, they trying to figure out, or law enforcement is trying to figure out, is this arson? Okay. Because there are no reports of electrical lines falling down, or there's no lightning strikes or anything where they can actually blame that. So it could possibly be arson. But if you turn on the news and you are arsonist, pyromaniac, and you basically see on every news channel, oh, we're going to be on a fire watch all day today because this is a once in a decade situation where they're going to be, at hurricane, perspective, and just one little one match will burn down. And I sat back and I said, watch. It's about 9:30 that morning. I said, man, it's about to be some fires. By the time 10:30, 11 hit, started smelling the fire, went up on the balcony, looked towards the foothills, and what did we see? Smoke. So I'm sitting back saying, wow, okay. But they went on and had a press conference and said that, as soon as they find out, what happened or what was the ignition, or if it was arson, they will let the people know, but they're not. Okay. So it makes you think like, who's working from an anti-government perspective or anti-humanity perspective and working at it in an operation to pretty much tear this country down. Okay. And if you follow, the paperwork, whoever made the call to dump 114 billion gallons of water in September into the ocean, that's where you need to start having that conversation. Because we cannot be a house divided cannot stand. There's no way we could continue to be, a country that's growing or thrive if one, wants to make America great again. If one wants to make America first, and then the other one, is anti-American, warmongering, pretty much promoting genocide, sending billions of dollars to Israel to kill, Jewish people, not Jews, Jewish people, killing Muslims, genociding. One entity that's enforcing abortions, meaning killing babies, destroy the population. One particular party has no term. We really got to start understanding and having that conversation. Like, wow, the Democratic Party, man, y'all literally the party of the serpent. You got Planned Parenthood is clearly Democratic. That's killing babies. And I'm not going with that Bible today, okay, because we're just talking politics. But in the sense of, when you're killing babies, that's you pretty much going after God when you're killing babies in the womb. Okay. Now understand that, there's rape and incest and all of that. There's exceptions to the rules, but you cannot go out and have no terms. Just basically it's pretty much, it's a play, because there wasn't before Planned Parenthood became Planned Parenthood, they were called the Eugenics Society, and it was called population control, ran by Margaret Sanger, and her mission was to stop the population of black babies here in the United States of America. And now the Democratic Party is the party of Planned Parenthood. The major in the Democratic Party is Planned Parenthood. Think about that. Why would we as human beings be associated? We could sit down and have a civil conversation. Rape and incest. Come on. We got to figure that out. Okay. First trimester. Okay. But when you're talking about no limits, and then when you ask an elected official and a presidential candidate on the campaign trail, and they can say, what is it, Kamala? 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 9 months. And she sit back and say, come on. And then when you press on the city, I respect the woman's right to choose. Okay. Just like the serpent, he pretty much go after that woman and got her in total control. And this is why the Democratic Party is being exposed right now. Okay. If you want to know from a demographic perspective, the fires is in a place, where, a lot of, wealth and generational wealth, has taken place. I'm not throwing it out there, but the Bible says, I will basically, destroy by fire. Okay. I killed them. That's what the Bible says. So this is why I say repent, disassociate yourself with either political party or religious group, and focus on the gospel of Jesus, because that's our only solution. So I'm saying is we have to organize as nonpartisan, as human beings that's going to make sure what it is. And somebody put in the comments, Bible approves of abortion. If they approved of abortion, why did they ship, slaves up the river? Think about that. They had to get Moses there. Pharaoh was killing all the newborn babies, more importantly, the firstborn sons, because they knew down the road it would be a threat. What's the difference? So if you just abort babies, you're killing kings and queens. You're killing scholars. You're killing individuals that might save the world. But if you kill them in the womb, then you're preserving your position that you're in right now. So it's crazy how we can associate with a political party that does that. And then we associate with a political party that wants to tell your son, you could be a girl now. You're 13. Okay. You're going through puberty. Okay. I'm going to give you these pills and block your puberty. So now you can actually be a girl if you want to. Which party is that? Democratic Party. Now I'm saying you can do and be anything that you want. But when you try to put it in laws and legislation, when you try to force everybody to accept your way of life. No, it can't do that because you got some whoremongering men out there. You got prostitutes out there. A prostitute not coming to us and saying, you got to accept my whoring. You got to accept me. Man, I sleep with men for money. I do drugs. I hang out on the street, but you got to love me. No, they do what they do. So I'm saying this to every human being that can actually hear my voice right now. Do you let go and let God. Don't make it a club, because what party is adding letters of the alphabet, taking letters from the alphabet, the L, B, G, T, Q, L, M, N, O, P, I, Democrat. Think about that. Why not just be me? Okay. Because the Bible says God made man, he made woman. Anything that you want to do outside of that, just be you. I know some human beings that's just comfortable in their skin. Okay. I've been in the presence. I wasn't offended by them. You know, it was what it was. But then when you have the individuals that try to indoctrinate you into their lifestyle, you know, I want you to love me and see me for who I am. That's mental illness, and you got a personal problem. Because as a black man, I've walked into, you know, a restaurant recently, okay, in Glendora. I looked around, they looked at me, I looked around. I was the only brother that walked in. And I said, hey, how you doing today? Broke the ice. But then I got up out of there because I'm like, I don't want to be uncomfortable in there. Because usually when a black man is around white people, we got to coon and fetch and talk different, you know, because we can code change. But it comes a time where we need to be who we are with the people that love us so we can actually come together, bounce ideas off, and make this world, or the United States, it's great. Because America is great, okay? Contrary to popular demand. It is great. It's been great in the Revolutionary War. It was great in the first World War I, World War II, the Civil War, the War of Independence. Yes, this is the greatest nation in the world. I can't go anywhere else. But what I'm saying is, if we take care of home and fix the problems and stop the rivaling tribes, and the American people decided to get rid of the Democratic Party, which will never be in power ever again. Okay. So now we got to talk about what do we want and how do we want it as human beings. That Constitution says we're people. So we, the people, got to come together, step up, and do what we need to do. Because when I sit back and I see CNN, because I'll look at them first to see the video. Oh, he wants to buy Greenland. Oh, that's appalling. The people of Greenland. And I think about from a strategic perspective and national security, that might not be a bad idea. And that means we're expanding. Okay, expansion, you know, is beautiful. Expansion is good. What's wrong with that? Because from a strategic perspective, you're talking about the top of a spear, the top world. Meaning you can get to Canada like, bro, where you going? Putin, we right here. Jump back over to Canada. Hey, man, what's up? Right there at the top. You know, turn to the left. Hey, Japan, you know, right there. Europe, right there. So we really can consider that. And then the Gulf of Mexico. Why is it called the Gulf of Mexico anyway? It needs to be changed to the Gulf of America. I'll vote for that legislation. Look at that. This man ain't even in office, and he pretty much trying to, you know, make America its greatest because he sat in a room with black men and conversations. Okay. Seriously. So now it's time to end racism. Okay. Make it one race, and that's the human race. And before we can do that, we got to deal with the Democratic past, with the Confederate, with segregation. Okay. With the KKK and all these entities that they put in play to pretty much try to force the black race to be a subordinate race forever, but we broke the cycle. We was on a trajectory for the baby boomers to basically leave the black race worse. For the first time in history, we didn't advance. The baby boomer generation was pretty much making black America worse than it was when they got it. But somehow, some way, we didn't fuck you dope. We separated ourselves from the Democratic Party. We separated ourselves from the baby killers. We separated ourselves from the LBGTQ, LMNOP, AI, whatever. We got right with God, and literally the prodigal sons is back to save the day. And now we're going to step up what we need to do as a people, by the people, to make this country its greatest. Okay, so when he talks about buying Greenland, nigga, run that. Okay, that will help, you know, That was from a national security perspective. That's good. And then from a Canadian perspective, 23% of American goods come from Canada. Drop prices drastically. And if you really look at it, America has been protecting Canada since it's in existence. Think about it. Canada don't get no problems. Don't nobody bother them, because if something happens to Canada, United States has to be involved because it's a part of what we call North America, the continent of North America. So the 51st state is huge. I don't know how they're going to divide it up, but that's a conversation that we need to have moving forward. The Panama Canal should always have been the American canal. Okay. We should be, running that, our military should be running it. Like I said, we need to be that global power domination, because we are weak right now. Look at the world of what's going on. It just, if we don't fix this, that we're going to be dealing with, all of these things. Administration sold Israel $8 billion worth of ammunition, of war materials, drones and missiles and all of that. So we basically just funded their operation. So if we were to get into an issue, they could use them same weapons on us. Why would we do that? It does not make sense. And this is why, we got to separate ourselves from the party of the serpent. Okay. And all of its, inhabitants that goes along with it. Okay. And then the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, the Panama Canal used to be the canal, American canal, and then Canada being the 51st state. That's a great start. And we haven't even had the inauguration yet. We haven't even had the inauguration yet. So just like, the administration, selling, billions of dollars of ammunition and weaponry to Israel, what about our stock? What about our supplies? Just like we left Afghanistan and we pretty much, gave ISIS and any, terrorist a base, as well as, our weapons. So this is why the Democratic Party has to be done. Governor Gavin Newsom has to have this conversation and tell the American people and tell the people who lost everything why these water hydrants are bone dry. And by default, it happens to be, Karen Bass is the mayor. There's LA City. These are places of LA City in which the mayor's office is responsible for. So now she's going to take the hit as well, because she has to for not only the water hydrants being bone dry, because she could throw Gavin under the bus, but she's going to have to talk about the Parks and Recreation and Forestry, who has not cleared the brush, who has not, pretty much fireproof communities, and it is what it is. So let me see here. I'm about to get out of here, but I'm looking at these comments now. Chris White says we should have the most beautiful country in the world, paved in gold and marble, but we don't. It's at every turn. And I'm with you on that. I was downtown LA yesterday, going to a meeting, made a wrong turn, and they call it Skid Row. I'm talking about tweakers, doing a corner, urinating, dirty, people laying and sleeping on the ground. And I'm sitting back saying, wow. And then two lefts make a right. So I got to my destination, high-end condominium style apartments. And I'm sitting back just right over there. You got drug addicts, all of this stuff that's going on. And I'm sitting back, only in America. We got money for war, but we can't feed the poor. And the only reason that this stays into place is because of this two-tier government, and because of how we, it's these two rivaling tribes, build and destroy. One tries to build, the other tries to destroy. But now, for the first time in our lifetimes, we have to understand we're going to block the party of the serpent, and we're going to allow the party that wants to put America first, the party that wants to make America great again, which will make her greatest, because the Democratic President Obama said it himself. America's not, she could be, America is not perfect. We got a lot of work to do. We don't have work to do. The only work we need to do is dismantle the Democratic Party, dismantle the foreign money that flows through the Democrats, because the foreign money and foreign entities has pretty much told the governor to pretty much shut down, and allow 114 million gallons of water to flow into the ocean in September because knew that they was going to burn this baby down and it was not going to be any water to put it out. Okay. So we really got to think about that. We really got to think about that. And then there has been we voted for a particular measure to earmark $49 million, $49 billion. Okay. I believe I got to check the math on that, but we put money aside for the homeless situation in the cities of Los Angeles and the counties. And what they did was use that money for the migrants and got them situated and left the situation worse than it was. And Newsom said it himself. And we had a press conference and he got mad and basically said, because they're asking him, where did the money go? Our homeless situation is worse. And we put hundreds of millions of dollars aside to pretty much solve the problem. But where did that money went back to the individuals that invested into their campaign? Okay. The joke's on y'all now, because first time shame on us, shame on y'all. So now we got to figure this thing out. Okay. And then they put billions of dollars aside for, rail to go from, California to Las Vegas. They shut that down. Then there was another rail to be built from, I believe, Bakersfield area up to the Bay Area. They used the next thing, they shut that down. So we are looking at literally a high price Ponzi scheme at the top of the toppest level. Okay. I'm not lying. If I'm lying, I'm crying. Okay. So anything that I say, go look at the church. And this is a challenge to plant-based brother. Okay. Which is suspect, but plant-based brother, go look up the billions of dollars of Metro Rail funding in the state of California. Also go look at the 114 billion gallons of water that the governor, Gavin Newsom, pretty much allowed to be released into the ocean. Okay. Like I said, and from a factor perspective, okay, Mark Zuckerberg went online, and you could Google that on your social media, YouTube. He basically said, we're going to get rid of fact checkers because somehow, some way they've been compromised, by the liberals. And if you say something that goes against their anti-Christ, anti-American and demonic operation, then they could flag your page, get your page dismissed and all of that. So now it's time for us to have real conversation. It is what it is. Right. Again, now the people need to come together to change the government. But the sad thing is that we never happen. Well, basically, you got to believe and have faith. Chris White, I believe, I have. If you believe, you have faith. OK. And when you got individuals like-minded and like-kinded on the same sheet of music, we can actually make this world a better place. The work that I'm doing right now is to pretty much implement that change and to, dawn on a new horizon. We got 2025 years of data to show that we're going to continue, on this, practicing this insanity, because things need to change. And the only way we can come together if we deal with the negativity, we deal with the anti-American, we deal with the people who don't want no good for us. And those are the individuals that's living in a crab bucket. The ignorant, anti-Americans, the non-believers. Okay. So if we separate ourselves from their religion, if we separate ourselves from their politics and organize as humanitarians and human beings, at least, put ourselves in a position so when God's wrath comes, we don't want to be affected, by association. Because I know individuals personally that lost their homes and now today, and I'm sitting here and I'm really having a conversation with God. I'm like, God, what did they do? They worked hard. They moved to the suburbs. And, I remember having a conversation of one of my associates. And my associate basically said, we moved out, away from you. I'm like, dang, that's 10 years ago. Oh, y'all moved away from the N words. Y'all moved away from the hood. We, look at us, look at this greenery, the foothill. And I got a call yesterday that lost his crib. And he's like, man, what did I do? And I'm sitting back saying, man, I don't know what you did, but I looked on, I did a little research, and Altadena back in the 60s, you could fact check me on this, was 100% white back in the 60s. 100% whites, and it was classified as a sundown town. So when I say guilty by association, it's like, the children's get blessed. So if your fathers, they can curse you. Okay. So I'm saying the house that you bought, who lived there? Who built it? What were they up to? You know what I'm saying? So these are things that, we got to have these conversations because it's going to get us closer, to the Almighty. Because at the end of the day, all roads lead to God. And we really understand. So this is why I'm calling on the people to, repent, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and disassociate yourselves with people that are not righteous. Stop being around those individuals and stop supporting, these entities. OK, and then we can have a conversation, because there's a difference between positive and negative. There's a difference between righteousness and unrighteousness. There's a difference between pessimism and optimism. OK, and there's a difference between God and the devil, whether you believe it or not. OK, because the Bible is a book of religion and politics, but, God Almighty, a politician. He didn't come to change the scribe or the Pharisees. He came to fulfill. So focus on righteousness. We focus on love. We focus on patience and understanding. Then we can carve out, a safe haven on earth as in heaven for us. And we'll just sit back and just like, you news on. We down here in the hood in South Central. Only thing that's bothering us about the fires is that the smoke. OK, we walking around with masks, but just imagine what individuals are going through that has lost everything. When I say everything, these neighborhoods look like, a horror flick. There's nothing there but ashes, and it's crazy because what it is what it is. So, man, hit that subscription, hit that notification. We're going to continue to go up. I got a lot of software that I'm going to start uploading and, doing videos and things like that. But really, I appreciate y'all. Man, I love y'all. Okay. So all I can say is, listen, one love. Let's bring this thing together, because this is the day that the Lord has made, and we're going to be glad in it. And you can see being exposed. People who we thought were are not. OK, look at the industry. Look at the music industry. Look at all the things that's going on. And it's crazy that these individuals of Hollywood are housed, neighborhoods down the rubble. Not saying that these people deserve that. But like I said, the word of God said, I'm going to strike by fire. OK, so now let's get right. Let's come together as a people and figure this thing out, because it is what it is. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. This your man Bouchon, Better Black America TV on YouTube. It is what it is. And y'all have a great day. Peace out.